ourselves, that we can't thank the one who made ourselves. And we need to give him all the praise because there's nothing that I done, nothing that you done. It was all about him. And when you give him the credit, then that's when things begin to go the way he expects to go. But what it is, we want to take all the credit. And this morning, I like when you begin to build that fire. And then when he come in, it says, when he come in, he shows up, and he what? Showed out. So we begin this morning with a little show up. He was praying. We begin with the song. That means that he's already in. So we're going to let him continue to be in. And as I get into this lesson and think about what we've been, all this month, we've been dealing with a word. And that word has been the word hope. I kind of like that. Everything's been around the word hope. This whole 5 years has been around hope. And when you speak about hope, it tells us hope means you got to have faith. And with that faith comes the promise. I kind of love that too, the promise. And I looked at last week, we were talking about Hebrew. And when you begin to get into Hebrew is all about that faith word. And what is that? Faith is the substance of things what? Hope. Look at that word. That word. Hopeful. Faith is the thing of hopeful. So here's that word hope. So that means in our life, we live on hope. What I remember when President Obama he wasn't president, he was running, and he spoke about hope. They laughed about it. This man around hope. But what this man knows, if it wasn't for hope, he wouldn't have been what he was, because it's all about what? Hope. And when you have hope, you have faith. And then with that faith comes the promise. What's the promise? The same promise that he promised back there to Abraham and all of them. He's got that same promise because he changes not. We change it, but God changes not. And I just kind of like this whole universe about nothing but hope. So we have to build our life around hope that God gonna keep his promise. That's what the hope was, that God keep his promise. When I look back and think about what it was, he made a promise to Abraham. What you think about that, Mr. Larry? Here's an old man, old woman, but God still made the promise. And what happened? The promise was fulfilled. Because who made that promise? God. I told you, if I make a promise, you may not take it too far. Because something could come up. In other things, I could just say that to get you out of my way. But what I love about God, if he said it, what we said, that's it. So I don't have to take it no further. We said take it to the back because it's already there. And then when we look at that word, hope, last week, and we see what was in the book of Hebrews, they said, no one knows who written Hebrew. They give it to Paul, they give it to different people, but they said no one really knows. But what they do know, it was written to a Jewish Christian. So when you get talking about Jewish Christians, and look what he was saying last week about the hope, then we come into the book today, look who we in. We're in the book of Acts. And when you get into the book of Acts, and you think about who wrote the book of Acts, this was the oldest Gentile writer. Isn't that something? He was the oldest Gentile writer. Everybody else is Jew, this Gentile writer. Not only was this man there, but he told us more about Christ than anyone else. Here's a man who told us about Christ from his birth all the way to his death. Luke. Luke was a man. And said not only that, Luke was what? He was a physician. And he was a what? Missionary. So Dr. Luke had it going for him. And I thank Dr. Luke because through Dr. Luke, we got the man that we're going to talk about today. All that came from Dr. Luke. What I realized is that if it hadn't been for Dr. Luke, what you think? Dr. Luke. We would have known about who? We would have known all about Christ. And we would have known about the man that we're going to talk about today. Because who gave that man? Dr. Luke from Acts. Look at him. Luke. I like that man, what he done. He told us about this him. And the lesson today is all about this man that Luke told us about. And as we begin to get in this lesson, and when I look at our subject, look at that subject. That subject says what? Hope and God transforms us. I believe this morning when she read the introduction, she told us about transforming hope in God. What is it? Hope. We just can't do without hope. Every time you see hope. So if something keep coming up over and over, what do that tell you? something good about it. If you keep coming up, this whole month been something good about it. What's this month been about? Hope. Everybody got some kind of hope. It may not be hope in Christ, but you got some kind of hope. What hope do you have? When I was a boy, I hope to be a what? A grown man. And then when when you was a girl, you hope to be a what? A grown woman. And man, when I get grown, what's the first thing I'm gonna do? Get out of my mom and dad's house. I hope I get grown. Like get out of my mom and dad's house. That's one of the hope you look forward to. And then as that hope keeps going on, you say, well, I hope I have me a wife, another children. I'm still got that hope. A couple of them. Somebody go home for them, that we did, but that's okay. You still have that hope. And who you had that hope in? Christ. I couldn't do it. You had it in Christ. And then when you get to this last part, I said, hope transform us. Now that's a good one. Hope in God transform us. What does that transform mean? It means it's change you. And you know what the first thing comes to my mind is that song that Brother Tyler always sing all the time. He changed my what? Whole life. Who changed my whole life? Christ. God changed my whole life. When he said change my, what does my mean? Personal. I'm thinking for myself. He changed my whole life. When he changed my whole life, he turned me around from what I was to what I am now. And who did that? And what that is? He transformed you. He transformed you from a sinner to a saint. Who did that? God did. How he transformed you. I kind of like that. And how that come by? Hope. I got hope in God that he would transform me. I got hope and I believe that God will do exactly what he said. When you got that hope and you got that transformation in God, what's left? Nothing left. Because you know you already got the one that you already need. Who do you need? Christ. Mama can't do it. Dad can't do it. The preacher can't do it. The deacons can't do it. Only who can do it? Only Christ can transform you from a sinner to a what? I kind of like it. Now, what I wonder about, how many people really been, what's it? He said a saint, but he's an 8. I think in the beginning I was an 8. So when he came in my life, I became a what? Oh, this is a word this morning. We got ancient saints. Can you beat it? I can beat it. I'm about you. But when we get into this morning, what I like about that thing is that he transforms us, and our transformation comes through nobody but who? Christ and God. And this lesson we get into that this morning, it's just something about this lesson, this whole month, and kind of transforming me to make me look back on my life and see there's some things I got to do, and some things that you got to do because you're not important. And it says, hope in God transforms us. So as I get into this lesson and think about what Dr. Luke tells us about Paul, I just can't help but feel good about this lesson. This one of the lessons, you know, sometimes you got some lessons that make you feel good, and sometimes you got some lessons that make you search yourself. So this lesson got a little twofold. It makes you feel good and make you search yourself. Now, as we begin to get in this lesson and begin to search ourselves, and we get to the first topic, I kind of like this when we get into the first topic. And you know, when we get into the first topic, the first word begins with now. Now?
Lying. Lie. Blasphemy. A man riding on a donkey can save us. Let us know save himself.
We gonna get it. How you gonna save us? Gonna do this? We can't ride on a donkey. We supposed to be there. No, we can't do that. How you gonna save us? Save us on a donkey?
I got it unread for 2 years.
All right.
You think that governor did here? Governor?
He's crazy. Well, I guess we'll set up.
All right.
So I'm going to let King Agrippa handle this case.
My name is King Agrippa. Ray called to us so we could plead the case to the council.
Yeah. All kinds of cases. They all enough. Yeah.
I'm about to read my case. It began like this, verse 1.
Verse 1. Then Agrippa said unto Paul, Thou art permitted to speak for thyself. Then Paul stretched forth the hand and answered for himself.
King Agrippa said to Paul,
Raise your right hand.
though I pressed him, he raised his hand. King, may I plead my case? Now, the reason he did that to King Agrippa, he knew something
That's
that
your
they
left
didn't
hand,
know.
so you ain't right, that's your left hand.
Thank you. Correct. The reason he did that, because he knew something that they didn't know. First, it says, the governor right here, Governor Felix, he had him arrested, house arrest for 2 years. Now, during that house arrest, it wasn't about what he was doing, because he was summoning them up often to sit down and talk with Paul. And what it was about, he wanted something from Paul. Now, don't that sound just like us? I come to your house, sit down, and talk as long as I think I'm going to get something from you. But this one was there for Felix. Because since Felix could have, he turned up to Governor Festus. Now, Festus there, well, he know that he knew something, didn't know as much about the Roman custom as he's supposed to. So he had a smart idea. He said, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the king, King Agrippa. Now, later on, we're going to tell you about King Agrippa, why he chose King Agrippa. So Paul was already thinking, because King Agrippa came to town, they were having a festival. And Paul heard that he was in town. Paul began to think. Look how a man can think, how God put in the heart to think about this man. Because Paul knew who he was. In the next verse, what it tells us.
Verse 2. I think myself happy, King Agrippa, because I shall answer for myself this day before thee, touching all the things whereof I am accused of the Jews.
Here's a man, prison, he said, I think myself happy. Can you believe that? A man in prison, but he think himself happy. And you know, they said at that time, they had a custom. He had to kind of be polite to the king. King, I think, I kind of like that he been polite to him, that he's happy. How could you be happy? You've been house arrest for 2 years. What about us? This is a man been in arrest for 2 years, and the only thing he done was summon and talk with this man. But now he's been arrested, then he said, I think myself happy. How many times do you walk around and think yourself happy? How do you think yourself happy? I tell you, when you think about the goodness of who, what you're supposed to do, think yourself happy. I don't have to wait to come to church to think myself happy. All I got to do is think about who? The goodness of God, and think about where he brought me what? From, and brought me to, so I can do what? Think myself happy. I don't need the choir. I don't need the preacher. I don't need the deacon. All I got to do is what? Think myself happy. What did Paul say? I think myself happy. Now, when you get to think yourself happy, I believe that next verse tells us. What it tells us?
Verse 3. Especially because I know thee to be expert in all customs and questions, which are among the Jews, whereof I beseech thee to hear me patiently.
Now he's talking to the king. King, I know you know the law. I know you know the custom. Whereas the governor, Festus, didn't know that. But King, you know that. Now, in order for him to know that King know that, I got to go down the line and tell you how he told the king that he knew that. First thing, this king comes from a line of kings. And this king comes from a line of no good king. Where did he come from? Well, first he come from King Herod. Who was he? He was the one that ordered all the 2 years old to be what? killed. That's his cousin right there. Come on down the line. Not that. He did that, yes. And then I went on back a little further and I saw that. If I go back, that uncle fella there, he was Abraham, a seed of Abraham. Who was he? You know, Abraham had 2 boys. Who were they? Esau and who? Jacob. This fella here, this King Herod, he a part of that. He a part of that deal. And you know, what was the problem between those 2 brothers? They didn't get along because what? He stole his birthright. So that put that animosity right there. And here we go right here. Here's the king. This come on down to this king line. And then that next king, you know, when I looked at that King Herod, that King Herod's son, he was so rude, he did something. What did he do? He had John the Baptist beheaded. Why did he have him beheaded? Because he told him about what his wife, his brother's wife, and who had that good dance for him. Who put on that dance? His daughter. You remember? The daughter got up and danced for him, and that just got him all riled up. And what he said? Anything she asked him, what am I gonna do? Give it to her. And what did the mama tell him to do? Get his head. So who was that? That was King Herod. See, all this that bloodline. Then I kept on thinking about that. When I left King Herod, I got to the next king, this fellow Daniel. It says King Agrippa I. Now, who was King Agrippa I? He had something in him. King Agrippa I, you know, he got so popular and he got so high that he got beside himself. And what happened? God put some warnings of him in his intestines. This is King Agrippa. So all these kings had some bad stuff in there. And who we got now? We got King Agrippa the second. Now you know it said in this meeting they had, they had all the top people there. They had the Pharisees, they had Sanhedrin, and then they had the Sadducees. But what happened? This fellow right here, King Agrippa, he had a little something going on here. The second. You know what he had? He had his love with him. Who was his love? His sister. His sister. He had his sister. That's why I bring him out. He's buried up there. He's buried not his wife. Not his sister. He had his sister with him at that meeting. When Paul pleaded him, his lover was his sister. So look how bad that family was. You know, that's a bad family. So what he knew about King Agrippa. I'm talking about Paul can tell you about King Agrippa. So he had in his mind about this whole list of kings, how bad they were. None of them was a good king there. And look what happened. I'm going to plead my case to King Agrippa. This is Paul. They already had done wrong. So he's going to plead this case to him. And read it and plead that case to him. What he said next?
Verse 4. My manner life from my youth, which was at the first among mine own nation at Jerusalem, know all the Jews.
Now he began to tell him what? From my youth. What happened from my youth? Well, if you look at it from Paul's youth, and Paul's youth, he was not Paul, what was he? He was Saul as a Jew. Not only that, it said that this Saul was born out of a place called Tarsus. And Tarsus was out of Jerusalem. So what happened is that Paul was born in the Roman territory, but Paul was not a Roman. Paul was a what? A Jew. But they got all confused. That's why the name come out. In Greek, the name is Paul. It says in Jewish, the name is Saul. So what happened? The same name, it just what? Different territory. And that's why God said, I'm going to get who? I'm going to get this Paul because he can speak to who? The Gentiles. Who are we? The Gentiles. If it hadn't been for this man named Paul, we wouldn't be, we would be him, but we would have a what? We would have a chance. So what God did, he used this man here. So the people know who's better to know you than somebody that really know you. Who you going to listen to? Listen to somebody that know you. Who are they going to listen to? They're going to listen to who? Paul. So this man Paul said, I know from my youth who I was. Now some of them got probably confused. Wait a minute. I thought this man's name was who? Saul. And you going to tell me he's one of them? Yes. I'm one of y'all because I was born where? I was born in Tarsus. But I went and took my lesson in Jerusalem, and the same person that taught them, we're going to get there, taught me. And then when he said that, I kind of like how he said from his youth. And you know, that's probably throwing a catch in him right there. Wait a minute, this man from his youth said something like that there? Who is this man? I thought his name was who? Paul. I didn't know he was who? Saul. So that means he's one of us. And here's the next one. This kind of good on next. What's the next one?
Verse 5, which knew me from the beginning, if they would testify that after the most straightest sect of our region I live a Pharisee.
How, Sam? Wait a minute. What are the ones that accuse me? I don't see them. Why? They not there. I don't see them. Let me see them. Now he said, they knew me from the beginning. If they was come up and testify what I done, what did Paul do so bad? Persecute the church. Who was even to persecute the church? Paul. He was Saul. Who was Saul? A Pharisee. They know when I was Saul. They know I was a Pharisee. What's that? They know I was a persecutor, but where are they? When he looked around, he didn't see them. Who did he saw? He saw the people against him. He saw the people. He saw the counselor. That was the counselor. He saw all these people here with him, the Pharisee, but he didn't see the one that said, what y'all told? Lying. He didn't see him. Stoned him. What? Didn't see him. Didn't see nobody that they said that. He didn't see him because what happened? They knew, and King Festus knew, and King Felix knew, the man hadn't done anything wrong. He said, I believe in the same thing that they believe in, because I am a what? Pharisee, and I believe what they believe in. And then that next chapter, read, what it tells us that?
Verse 6, and now I stand and am judged for the hope of the promise made to God unto our fathers.
Here I am, Brother King, standing here, pleading for myself, because of the promise made. Now, what that means, that this power had changed. What it says in the beginning, change. What did God do? He changed this man's power. How do we know that God changed this man's power? Remember the road of the baptism. What happened on that road? It says 10 years this man had persecuted folks. But one day, what I like is that, one day, this man met God. And when he met God, what happened? He changed. Now here's my question. When you meet God, or have you met God, why is your what? Why is your change? If you meet God, you're going to change. How let me know? When I met God, I first was who? Saul. But then when I met God, I became who? How? So what happened? He changed me. He changed my whole life. Look at that. Can God change you? Did he change you? That's the question. Did he change you? How do you know? I kind of like that. This is a personal thing. I know I've been what? Person. Paul said, he know he been changed. Because this man, God had transformed him. And that's verse 7. When you begin to think about the transformation and what God did, and what he told him, like he said, you judge me on hope for the promise. What was the promise God made? He made the promise to who? Abraham. What promise did he make to Abraham? That his seed was going to what? Multiply. He made that promise. And did he fulfill it? He fulfilled it. But Abraham didn't get a chance to see all the multiplication. But what happened? It happened. And then not only did it happen, here come Paul bringing in some of that multiplication, folks. When you multiply, who did he bring in? He brought in the Gentiles. When he brought the Gentile in, who did that come? So who is that? Seed of Abraham by what? Spiritual seed of Abraham. Not by the flesh, but we are the spiritual seed of Abraham. That's what it says that. And I like that. The religion I know. Go ahead, give me that next.
Verse 7, unto which promise our 12 tribes, instantly serving God day and night, hope to come. For which hope's sake, King Agrippa, I am accused of the Jews.
What were the 12 tribes doing? Serving God day and night. Why were they serving him? Because they knew that was a promise. What was the promise? That 42 generations, come the promise. Who came down through 42 generations? Christ. And now this is what I like. When he came down and saved him, and they were expecting, how did he come in? Come in on the donkey this morning. He came in on a donkey. And when they said, how did he save us riding a donkey? Can you imagine coming in on a donkey? But what they didn't know, the man riding the donkey had all what? Had all power in his hand. Now, what they, here's the catch up. What they had thought about, I went back 400 years. When I went back 400 years, I believe he told Malachi, write what? Stop writing. Put your pen down. Write no more. So then, and during that time, look who dropped up. The Roman people. In the Roman people, you had the Pharisees come in. You had the Sadducees. You had the Sanhedrin people come in because Malachi had stopped writing in those 400 years there. So what we have right here is in that 400 years, and they're expecting a Savior to come. Now, they didn't want their Savior to save their soul. What did they want their Savior to do? Save them from the Romans. This is the Jews said. We expected somebody to come in and save us from the Romans. They were not expecting somebody to come in and save their soul. That's why they said, this man can ride in on a donkey, can save us. What happened before? All the time before, God would send somebody in to do what? To save them. So what they expect this time? Same thing. What did you expect? The same thing from God. When you get down as low as you can get, what you expect? The same thing. You expect somebody, God, to ride in and do what? Save you. And what happened? They didn't get that. Because he said he came in to save their soul from what? From their sin. They didn't want that. But they wanted somebody to come in, and they were expecting that there. So when you got that part right there, and he told him, look at that, how they prayed day and night, the 12 tribes. The 12 tribes didn't get a chance to see that, but we did. So I began to look at that thing right there, and I thought about it. In that 12 tribes, we came up with 2 brothers. And Paul is cousin to one of the 2 brothers. You know, Jacob had the 12. We're talking about Jacob's 12 sons. And Jacob's 12 sons, that 4th son was Judah. Who came from Judah? Christ. Christ comes from the bloodline of Judah. Then, if you get that, I think we read it this morning. But Dixon read it in our introduction. When you get to Judah, you get out of time for Paul. Paul came from who? Benjamin. His bloodline is Benjamin. So what happened? All these folks are bloodlines come from what? 2 brothers. And you see what happened? Benjamin, Judah. Both of them are Jacob's son. Look, what we got. And who did Paul come from? Benjamin. Who did Christ come from? Judah. So, you know, this kind of history of that what's going on right there. And read it, what that makes it tell us.
Verse 8. Why should it be thought a thing incredible with you, that God should raise the dead?
Wait a minute. You've been talking, and I've been talking about the main thing, the model. But he taught us the same thing. Now, he said that Christ will be raised from the dead. Now, you don't believe that? What's the problem there? What's the problem? You was talking. Now, all of a sudden, you don't believe it. And then you're going to accuse me. And you know what I'm telling you was right, because we were talking about the same person. This man here said he was talking in Jerusalem. I lived in Tasha. I went to Jerusalem, and I was taught by the mama, the same one that taught you. And here you are now, don't believe me because what I said. What did I say? That Christ rose from the dead. He said, I didn't tell you nothing about Hosanna. I didn't say nothing against that. I didn't speak nothing against that. Why he didn't speak nothing against the Mosaic law? Because he was a Pharisee, and he believed in that. So here now, all of a sudden, that you're going to put me on trial, and you want to torture me, because I believe the same thing you believe then. That was then. But when I met him on Damascus Road, them 3 days, and I got blind, what happened? I changed. So what I'm saying, do God have to put you down just to bring you back up? That's what happened to him then. I don't want God to put me down to bring me back up. I want to stay up. Because sometimes God puts you down, you You may not come back. There are some people down that can't get up. So what's he saying that he was down, but that same God picked him up because he know about what we doing. People are persecuting the Christians. Persecuting the Christians. How said he was doing that? But that day, that particular day, he met the man. I kind of like that. He met the man. Now in your life, you meet some men, don't you? In our life, we meet some men. But you never met a man like this like him. Paul said he never met a man like this here. Because this man, he blinded, and then he gave his sight. From that day on, Paul began to make a change. Where is your change? When you met it when you was a boy, when you met it when you was a girl, when you met it when you was an adult, where is your change? Do you see it? Can I see your change? Am I the same person that I were yesterday? I'm talking about way back yesterday. Because I said I made a what? Change. If I made a change, I would be just like Paul. I kind of like that when he said that. He was telling that God raised Jesus from the dead. They knew he raised somebody, but they didn't say, believe that he raised Jesus from the dead because Jesus was the who? He was the Messiah. The Messiah. They knew way back in the Bible that the Messiah was coming. But what they didn't know, how the Messiah was coming in. And when he came in, the way he came in, they didn't want to accept it. No, that ain't going there. That can't be. We want somebody to save them. And then, I believe that's what. Now, I got out on top. Anybody else? Man. Okay, I have that to say. I was talking on you. Okay, all right, the question says, why does it seem that some believers lack the boldness and courage to witness and defend their faith in Christ? There you go. Why do some of us don't believe in talking about Christ? Why do us don't believe in telling people that he did what he did?
We're not bold and we're fearful, we're scared.
Scared of who?
Scared of the people and what their reactions are.
Scared of man.
Yeah.
We are scared of man that we won't stand on God's promise. When it comes to God and man, what side do you take? God's side. But what side do you really take?
Man.
Man's side. Because you ought to take God's side because God got to what? Got to back and have your life where? In his hand. Man can't do no more than God allows him to do. So if I put my faith not in man, but put my faith in who? God. That means I can stand bold for God. I can tell anybody what he done for me. Can you tell what he done for me? Talk to me.
Last week I come to this place. It's not reasonable. I didn't do it. I'm sitting there going, I do it. I didn't pray about God. Oh, yeah, I didn't yeah, butter up. I said, okay, then you know, I'm right. I didn't know. You can't read some of these people. I ain't talking about God. Some of you cannot read.
But I like it.
But I don't know how to people live. So you try your best to find what looks right. If they don't come, you go.
But I like it. I'm going to put this button down. But I like it. What Jesus told the disciples, go out what? 2 by 2. And then he said, when they don't accept, what do you do? Dust what? Dust your feet and what? Keep on going. Dust your feet and what? Keep on going. Because God can and he will do what? Change it and he will fix it. You can't, but God can.
She called out, she got me talking in there, she said, they kind of John you wrote to me. She told me that last. And said, they will. I did not feel the issue, I just told me to quiet. Well, you know, y'all have to get better. That's what you're talking about. Not so much thing wrong, I will do. I told her, what you want me to hold on to?
But what I like is that you can dust your feet, but you also can do what? Keep on praying. Because God hears a righteous prayer. So you just keep on praying. Dust your feet and keep on praying. Don't try to beat them in the head. Let them accept God and move on like that. We got to stand bold. Bold don't mean I'm gonna stand at the county. Think loud, think now. Bold means just say it. If you reject it, move on, but you keep on praying. Because God answers a what? A righteous prayer. When you pray right to God and answer that prayer, and like she told you, you never know when she's gonna come through that door. All you gotta do is live the life that God wants you to live. You need to be the light of the world. So if you're the light of the world, your light gonna draw somebody out of the world into where we're supposed to be right now. And then, here's the next one, the last one. We had a now. You know what? I kind of like now said, no other way. I kind of like that other way. You know what I mean? There's what? One way. How is that way? You've got to come through Christ. And there's no other way. When you said now, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. No other way. Now, since we have a now, and the next thing we're going to have is a what? Then. I better not say now too much because they like, trying to stone me again. So I'm going to have to watch that now. But how to watch it? Okay, that's why it said beginning. It said, now faith is a substance. I look at that now, but I don't want them to hurt me. Now, here we go. The thing said, then. Since we got the now we're going to do the then. King and Drew, you hang right here, huh? Like that. All right, here we go. Read what we have.
I verily thought with myself that I ought to do many things contrary to the name of Jesus of Nazareth.
What word did he say right there? Myself. He thought that what? Himself, that he was to do what? Persecute the Christians. This is on who? This was old Saul. He said he thought to who? Himself. Who was not in that thought? God. Because he thought to himself that he gonna do what to the Christians? Persecute the Christians. Why did Paul want to persecute the Christians? Why Saul want to persecute the Christians? Because he thought he was right, and the Christians was people that had accepted Christ. They had come out from that Mosaic law. They began to accept Christ, and Paul was still Saul. So he thought he was right. And what he said? He went to the king. One of the kings said, "Give me a letter. Give me a letter." And what's that letter gonna do? Give him the right authority to go and round up all those what? Christian folk. And you notice that word Christianity, like Christian, come in the later book of Acts. It said they became a Christian. And then that word Christian means what? Christ-like. Was Paul Christ-like? Saul? No. They told me that he was standing there looking. When they were stoning him, he was standing there looking. He probably said, hey, look at them old Christians there. Got him. But that don't look at him. Because when he met God, something happened like that. And read what that next tell us.
Verse 10. Which thing I also did in Jerusalem, and many of the saints did, I shut up in prison, having received authority from the chief priests. And when they were put to death, I gave my voice against them.
Look what he did. He went all over the territory to elect against Christians. Not only that, what he said, he was so bad about it, after collecting the folks that he shut them up in prison. Now, if you think about shutting up in prison, Paul ought to know about that prison. Paul ought to know about somebody stoning him to death. Because he was standing there when they were stoning Stephen. He was standing there looking. Now, you know, what they said, what goes around, comes around. So what happened? Paul was standing there when they stoned Stephen. And what happened, Paul? They stoned him. So what goes around, come around, because God got the last say so. He have all power what? In his hand. If he can change this old no good call, old Saul rather, what did that tell you? That he can change you. Because what? He's the same when and there you go right there. So if he can change him, let you know he can change me and he can change you. I kind of like that part right there. All right.
Think about change. A person has to want change. God ain't gonna walk to this service, I'm gonna change. You wait on you to come to him and say, Lord, I want to change. Clean my heart, to do the right thing, give me a love mind, give me a good heart, so I can love and care for others. So many people in this world do not love, never say. I know it goes, y'all love themselves, you know, when you really need to calm down, God wants to spring calm. Calm down. And they'll tell me, well, I ain't like you, you feel this. You know what I get? I just love it.
What I like. But what I like, I believe the song said, I know I been who. So what is all about? Personal. That's the first thing. You got to want to change. And then God come in because it's what? Personal. Mama can't change me. Daddy can't change me. Nobody can change me but who? God. And that's a what? Personal thing there. You can talk about that there. Read it. Whosoever will. Personal. That means you. Personal thing. I can't. You personal thing. Whosoever will. Look at the word. What? Will. You got a force on that word? That means that's a theory. Freely. You got to come to God freely. Whosoever will, let him come. Let him come. And we give me that last one. So we got it.
Verse 11. And I punished them off in every synagogue and compelled them to blaspheme. And being exceedingly mad against them, I persecuted them even unto strange cities.
Look what he said. He went to every synagogue. I mean, he went to every church. Who was he looking for? Christian. He had this level. If you say you was a Christian, he went out all over the country. This man here went all over the country. I wrote his Washington, whatever he had, all over the country looking for who? Christians, because he had one thing in mind. He was going to persecute them. He was going to kill them because they was accepting Christ. They had left the Mosaic law and began to accept that Christ came in. Not only did he came in, he came down through 42 generations. He died, and he what? He rose, and when he died and rose, he rose to what? All power, and they believed that. So now he don't want to accept it. They didn't want to accept that. They want them to still accept the Mosaic law, but you can't, because Romans tells us about what Jesus did. When he came, he changed the law, so we have two laws. And the two laws cover everything we got to do. What's the two laws he left us to do? Love God, and what's the next one? Love thy neighbor. Everything you find in the Ten Commandments. Love God. If I love God, I'm going to love my neighbor. If I love God, am I going to curse you? No. If I love God, will I kill you? No. So you know it said, all those Ten Commandments, they come down to two. They didn't want to believe that. They want to stay with all those 613 things. What I liked about it, they didn't keep them. You can't keep them. But what you can do is what? And you can have what? Faith. And you can have hope. And you can what? Believe that Christ did exactly what he did to do. He died. Not only did he die, but what did he do? He rose. So that's what Paul was telling you. If you just believe that Christ died and he rose, that's all it matters. Now I believe that I'm going to sit down and let my daughter in Christ come up. How do y'all like that? I kind of like it. Well, I don't know what you like, but I kind of like it. So if I like it, God let me like it. That's good. Come on down. Oh, what's that? I almost persuaded him to be a Christian. This old Christian. I almost persuaded him. I must do a good job of almost persuading him to be a Christian. This is what they. That's what I said. He had it. But remember, we got a lot of almost Christians in the church. Almost. What that means, you have always faith to God. You just wonder what? Almost Christian. I kind of like that in the group. You almost got to be a Christian. All right, people. Come on now, y'all.
Good morning, you all. This unit was entitled Experience and Hope. So when I looked at this unit, hope is not just a desire for good things to happen. It's more than that. It's the confidence that God is going to do exactly what he promised, and what in those promises it has to be in the confines his will and your purpose. Okay? So when looking at this unit though, for this quarter, I noticed that Dr. Herbert, he wrote this. He overemphasized hope because typically our units have 4 topics.
Right.
He did a 5th topic here. Our first topic was hope amidst suffering. So in this, Paul's purpose for writing the Colossian Christian was to warn them about damaging teaching, encourage them to maintain love and unity, and help them to understand that they all needed Christ. Our second unit, which is entitled Reflecting God's Spirit, in this one, Paul defended his credentials as an apostle in 2 Colossians 3 by insisting that the Corinthians change their lives. Changing their lives was sufficient evidence that his ministry was valid. Topic 3, hope amidst differences. So in this one, Paul thought that it was necessary and distinctive mark of the church to show unity, and that to maintain that unity and Christian hope amid divisive issues and difficulties. Paul encouraged also that Christians use Christ as an example in putting other needs before your own. The fourth topic is God is trustworthy. So with that one, it was encouraged that we continue to preserve and grow towards spiritual maturity to avoid falling away from the faith. And then finally today, we talk about hope in God transforms us. So with that one, Paul boldly defined or defended himself in the gospel because of his confidence that Jesus had fulfilled God's promises of hope for Israel through his resurrection. Now in this unit, they chronicle Paul and talked about how he was initially Saul and he persecuted the church, went to prison. While he was in prison, Titus and Timothy told him about the things that were going on with the man, and he wrote a letter to them expressing how he was who he was, but that wasn't the end all be all. God had something else in store for him, and that our job is to push forward God's narrative and not our own.
Now we're gonna turn your hand and allow Superintendent, I think she put off. Roll, ribbon around the neck. All right, hold your